Hello, adventurers, and welcome back to the Our Offbeat Life podcast. Today, we're excited to introduce you to Bethany Baker, an adventurous mom with her husband and two young explorers. They journeyed into the realm of digital nomad life by driving not only North America, but Central and South America too. So, welcome to the podcast, Bethany.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So glad to have you. Can you tell those of who haven't met you yet a little bit about you so they have a little groundwork to go from?
Okay, yeah, sure. So, like you said, I travel full time with my husband and my two little girls who are 6 and 9 now. But we've been traveling full time as like full time digital nomads for about 2.5 years. I probably should have really pinpointed that date because I think we've been in Latin America for 2 years. And then we did half a year in the US before we moved on to Latin America. So we've been nomading for a while and now. And it's so exciting to think about that. It was not that long ago when I was still planning and plotting this adventure. But my husband has a 9 to 5 that he works remotely. And then I have a coaching business where I help moms find more time and energy and in their day so that they can do all the things that they want to do better, faster. Because I know that there are a lot of moms out there who are doing amazing work in the world. But, sometimes they're tired. They feel like they have more than they can do in a day. And that's where I come in.
Excellent, excellent. I worked with people like that in my dad's groups, helping dads that were stay-at-home dads before I started this adventure because that was my lifestyle. I
Well,
could have
yes,
used a
there are
full
plenty of
coach at the time.
I say moms, but there are plenty of stay-at-home dads that are in the exact same situation for
Well,
sure.
we definitely are in the minority of stay-at-home dads, so.
Yeah.
All right, so tell us a little bit about your adventure through Latin America. So, what inspired you to take this road trip, and how did you plan for it?
Okay. So one day I found out about full-time travel and nomad life. It was something I had no idea existed. And from the moment I heard about it, I was like, yes, we are doing that. Like that is happening. It was just like the heavens opened up, right? But even though I knew I wanted to do it, the how and the when was still a mystery. So it actually took us about 5 years to get ourselves reoriented and ourselves together to where we could actually make this a reality. So I just want your listeners to know that don't stress about how or when yet. Just like it will happen. It will happen. Believe it. I manifested it. You can manifest it. You just have to focus on it each day and take one little baby step and make your list of challenges and slowly cross them off the list. That's what I did. But, anyways, so what it came down to is we didn't like our house, but we did like our van. So we decided to sell the house. If we liked our house, we might have just done like a rent it out or something, but we sold the house once we had all of our other boxes checked. And we kept the van because it still had a lot of life in it. But if we sold it, it wouldn't be worth much. So that's when we decided, okay, how are we going to nomad? Well, we're going to drive around, at least until the van dies. I think when the van dies, our life will change to more airplane travel. But as long as we had the van, we decided we were going to just drive to destinations and live in Airbnbs. And the reason why we did that, as opposed to like living in an RV, is because we just looked at our situation. Well, we have little children, and my husband has a lot of meetings, and I have a lot of meetings. And so we need 2 bedrooms. Like we need a place where we can close the door and we can do our work. And we didn't want the kids to be like, okay, kids, we're on a meeting. Be quiet. Nobody talk. You can't do that to little kids. It's not nice. So we decided we needed for now, until our kids are older and can be quiet without it being traumatizing, we are going to travel so that we have space. The kids can play and they can do their schooling, and we still have an office space or bedroom/office space to do work. And so that is why we decided to do it the way that we did. Now, how I learned about driving the Pan American Highway, how I learned to drive from the US down to the end of Argentina, I do not remember because I was I was listening to all the podcasts. I was watching all the YouTube videos. I was reading. I was obsessed with it. Okay. So somehow I found out about that. And I am one of those people I don't like to do things halfway. Okay. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something crazy. That's how I am. So when I heard about that, I was like, oh, that's what we should do. And I just started learning about it and researching it. And, I found out that there are so many families doing it. There's a lot of fear mongering out there. And then there's a lot of people being like, no, we're just going to do it. So that's when I slowly convinced my husband. That could be a whole nother podcast of convincing the spouse that
That
you're not
definitely
crazy.
could be.
So yeah, so that's how it happened. And we just started and we kind of said, we're going to take one country at a time. And that's what we've been doing. And to tell you the truth, David, at first we were going to do the whole Pan American Highway. And then when I found out about the Darien Gap, I said, oh, it just seemed like too much. We'll just go to Panama and then we'll turn back around. But then when we were in Mexico, we met Brittany and Eric with our life. I feel bad.
Hourless.
Hourless
Um,
life, like hourless life, I think that's what it is. Anyways, and they have this serious rig, okay? I drive a Honda Odyssey, okay? It's not tricked out. It looks exactly like it did when I drove around suburbia, okay? And so when I met her, she was like, "Are you going all the way?" And I was like, "No, we're not overlanders. We're just doing what we can because in my mind, overlanders were like serious people." And she said, "No, you are traveling by land. You are an overlander. You can do it." And she gave me all the resources and all of the contacts for getting over the Darien Gap. And so I thank Brittany. It's all because of Brittany that I
yes.
actually even went to South America. But this is a lesson also in you guys, once you start traveling, like you don't worry about figuring it all out. Just get to your next destination. Just start because you will meet people along the way that will inspire you and make you want to do things that you didn't even know were possible.
That's amazing. Yeah, you meet great people. Brittany, Eric, they are amazing. They're very helpful for every
Yes.
traveler that they meet. Oh, so
Yes. Oh
but
my goodness.
I loved your point about manifesting, bringing it to fruition through thought. I mean, it's real. And if you don't
Well,
believe it, it won't happen.
the thing is your thoughts dictate your actions. The things that we fill our mind with and the things that we focus on, it kind of directs our choices that we end up making. So if you are consuming information about full-time travel and you're thinking about it, when you're at the store and you are thinking about buying another pillow for your sofa, if you're thinking about travel, you're like, no, I'm just going to have to get rid of that pillow. Or for example, you have a little kid, you need to buy a stool. Well, if you're thinking about full-time travel, you're not going to get that big old heavy wooden stool. You're going to get one of those nice collapsible plastic stools. Little things like that. It's just you start making choices that take you in the direction that you want to go, as opposed to just making the choices for someone who doesn't have that dream.
Yes.
Mhm,
That's exactly right. Everything has to have a function, sometimes multiple
mhm,
functions. Like
mhm.
my sweatshirt isn't just for keeping me warm. It rolls up into a pillow.
Yeah, Mark has a pair of shorts that do that. Like,
Nice.
they pulled up in a tiny little thing. That's so funny.
So speaking of that then, you move it perfectly into like life on the wheels. How do you manage family life while on the road? Uh, what do you need to do? Can you share some tips, tricks, hacks that have worked for you and your family?
Well, I have to be honest with you. I think that family life is very similar on the road as it is when you are stable. I mean, I think this is something that people don't realize is that even though I am now looking at the Pacific Ocean on the Chilean coast in this amazing location, I still had to get up this morning and feed my kids and take care of myself and do my workout and start work and take care of, it's a lot of it is the same. You're just in a different location. And perhaps your weekends look amazing compared to how they did before, but you still have to do a lot of the same things. I think, having defined roles and responsibilities, being organized, have with your time management and making sure you communicate effectively with your spouse. All of these things are very important on the road, but I mean, we should be doing that even if you're not on the road, I feel like.
That makes sense, yeah. Your weekends are a bit different than they would
Yeah.
be living back home. So, like,
Yes.
where was home for you?
It was in Atlanta, Georgia. That is
Alright.
where my whole family is. It's where I lived my whole life, and that is why we really needed to get out. The monotony and the comfort and the convenience of the United States is wonderful, and for some people, it's deafening and it just kills your spirit somehow. I don't know.
Well, what was a typical weekend like for you and your family prior to this?
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. It's like some part of your days are the same, but then on the weekends, and this is kind of how I sold it to my husband. I was like, right now, what do we do all weekend? We can't take care of the freaking yard. We have to go to family gatherings or a birthday party or something every weekend, or we have to maybe just go for a walk in the local park. It's the same park that we've seen for the last 20 years. It is so boring. But now it's like our weekends are something different. Like, even if all we have to do is run some errands and go grocery shopping, we're doing it like in an Ecuadorian market, or we're learning how people grocery shop in Peru, or you know what I'm saying? We're
Yeah,
learning that you have to go to this store for this kinds of stuff and you do this to get this kind of produce. It's exciting. Grocery
yeah,
shopping is exciting when you are learning how to do it in different countries and different cultures, and you're out there with your kids. And when you go to the parks, it's like different kind of parks. And sometimes it's about going to a forest. Sometimes it's the ocean. So, it changes.
yeah,
And that is what's so fun about this life
yeah.
is it's something new all the time, or as much as you want, because really you could stay somewhere for 3 months so that there's some excitement, but then you do get into a routine before things change. You can go as fast or as slow as you want.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been there,
Yeah.
slowed down for 3 months in one place and then moved on again, and I know you've done it too, and it's different, so there's different ways to do it, but I love your point about, you went for walks when you were in Atlanta at the park,
Yeah.
and now you go to
Mhm.
walks in Chile at a park, and you
Mhm.
see different birds, you see different everything. Isn't it so weird
Trees.
seeing some different birds, just the birds alone?
Well, yes, and I know I don't have my better half over here with me, but he really geeks out on the birds and the trees and the wildlife and all the natural. He can tell you the names. He's looking them up all the time.
I
He's
love it.
learning new things. I am more of the people watcher. He is more of the nature watcher. So I'm sorry, David. You have the people watcher on your podcast now,
Uh,
but
that's
maybe
alright.
one day he can get come on. But yes, he and the kids have learned so much more. I mean, I in this day and age, like, you can learn anything. You've got Google, you've got YouTube, you've got the internet, but there's just something different about how you observe and how you learn when you're there and you're
Yes,
seeing. It's
I
just
do.
different than watching a video about it on YouTube or having a textbook about it.
Yeah, that kinda makes me think about road schooling, because as a traveler, we're not in a place long enough usually to put our kids in school. Sometimes we are there long enough that we can put them into a local school, but sometimes we teach them from home. How do you handle your children's education while traveling? Are there any specific resources, methods, anything that you'd recommend?
Well, here's the thing, whatever you believe about education, you can make it work for road schooling. I am more of a follow the child, but making sure that the basics of reading, writing, and math are there. So, what I do really, and I was an early childhood education major. So, and I think that I'm way more laid back than people who didn't have an education major. I think there's a lot of anxiety about making sure that the kids, don't fall behind. And have to tell you, there's a lot of time. Like they're not going to fall behind because you care and you're working on it. If I'm ever in doubt, I will just Google like just take a state. For example, I was in Georgia, so if I could just Google the Georgia performance standards in the public schools. To me, that's like the baseline. And you can look up their grade, and you can look up every single thing that a teacher would be making sure the child knew in each subject. And you can say, does my kid know this? Does my kid know that? It just for peace of mind. But for me, basically, I take each child because they're different. They're different ages, they're different interests. And I write down, make a list of math, reading, writing, foreign language, social studies and science, a special interest, their social, like being social, music, self-care. And I go through and I'm like, how can I foster this child in this subject? And what are they interested in with this subject? And how can I get them to the next level? So for my 6-year-old, part of her math, she can watch number blocks on Netflix. She also does an outschool class with me side by side to make sure that she's learning all of the first grade stuff. In reading, she just does Bob books on Kindle, and she also has a lot of play and pretend time in her curriculum because she's 6. You know what I'm saying? Writing, I chose Handwriting Without Tears, which is a very thin book. I'm not into big, heavy textbooks or giant curriculums. I try to do as much as I can online. For foreign language, she gets full Spanish immersion from babysitters. We use Brain Pop, which is an amazing resource for science and social studies. Her special interest is birds. So I just think she's really into birds. So I just kind of brainstorm, how can I get apps or YouTube videos or maybe online books to help her learn more about her special interest, which is books. I also use Epic, which is an online, basically like having a library on your Kindle or on your iPad. Now, I have a 9-year-old as well. So I also write down, okay, reading, math, music, I have all these things for her. And I just ask myself, like, what jives with her? What doesn't jive with her? Like my 6-year-old isn't really into music, so she doesn't have any music right now. But my 9-year-old told me, I want to learn the violin. So I hired a online tutor to teach her the violin. She also has an online tutor for French because she was really big into French. The only other thing that I will bring up is my 9-year-old really did not like math at all. Like that was the only thing, like we had a conflict. My 9-year-old and I get along great unless I'm trying to teach her math. And it was just a struggle. It was stressful for her. It was stressful for me. So you must listen to these things. If that is the case, do something different. For us, we found this app called Teaching Textbooks, which she enjoys the math. She enjoys doing the lessons. And I have the peace of mind knowing that it's going to take her through all the 3rd grade work. So I don't have to worry about her missing any concepts or there being gaps. So with online curriculums, with outschool classes, with tutors, and maybe a couple small books, we kind of just make sure we hit all of the subjects. And we make sure that like my 9-year-old is into crocheting and embroidery and crafting. So I make sure I have crafting materials and crochet needles for her. So does that answer
Yeah.
your question?
It does. But it sounds like you sometimes might acquire a lot of extra stuff to carry along in your
Yes.
travels.
Okay.
Um,
I'm so glad you
so
brought that up. I have to,
well,
I'm
so glad.
sorry if that was leading to another question, but I do want to tell you that there are people doing travel via airplane with the kids of all ages, and I think they're probably doing great. For me personally, I am personally very grateful that we chose to travel by van while our kids are young because you can have more stuff. And listen, I'm a minimalist, but here's the thing. I like the idea that my kids can still have Legos and some games and some like dress up. My little 6-year-old, she lives for the princess dresses. And there's no way that we could have all of that stuff if we were packing for an airplane ride. And so I don't know if that is something that people would want to consider, that maybe while their kids are younger, and if they wanted their kids, my kids don't have a lot of toys, but they have more than they would have if we were traveling via airplane. So that is something I really should bring up, that is something that was very conscious decision and that I feel good about. And I feel like maybe when my younger one gets to be about 7, 8, 9, then we can let go a lot of the toys.
Yeah, that's an excellent point to make because there's a distinction between driving travel and airplane travel.
Very
Um,
different.
very different in what you can take. And I mean, if you're pretty well off, you can take a lot while flying too, because it's just a lot of checked luggage. But
True.
for the majority of the people, yeah, you're gonna travel a lot lighter flying. So yeah. But with younger kids, it's always nice to have that extra, that bag of supplies. You probably
Yeah.
keeping all of the stuff that she makes too with her work.
I'm so glad that you said that. Okay, this is what I do because I am not somebody who keeps papers. Now, I will keep occasionally a painting or a really big piece of art. I am keeping a little bit, but mostly I take pictures. I take
Oh,
pictures and then I throw it in the trash.
there you
And
go.
I have a Google Photos album of, like, Jesse's work and Fern's work.
Yep.
So, I would say, like, 98% of everything that they do, because they do a lot of drawing and a lot of writing and a lot of painting. They do a lot of that. So, 99% of it is just a photo in an album, but there are occasionally things where they're like, "No, please, I work so hard," and I keep it in, like, it's like a little plastic sleeve that
Right.
can go in, like, a file folder. So, and we do have, like, a plastic file, it's like one of those things you just get at Walmart, like a file box, and so I do have that.
Excellent. So, yeah, the most precious things you hang on to for
Yes,
a while at least, and
yes,
the
yes,
others you can take photos of. That technology
yes,
nowadays is amazing.
yes, absolutely.
So then, remote work. Both you and your husband work.
Yeah.
How do you finance the travel then?
So, the financing is with my husband's income. Well, here's the thing, whether we were traveling or not, we would be paying our bills and paying for our life with a combination of what my husband makes in his 9 to 5 job and what I make from my coaching business. That's where all the money comes from. There's no trust fund, there's no enormous savings account that we're living off of. We get paychecks, and that determines our budget.
That's
So,
excellent. All right. It's concise. So then, all right, working as a working traveler then, you mentioned you had your coaching program. You
yes,
mentioned your husband has a 9 to 5 job. So how do you
yes.
juggle work commitments with travel, especially when you're crossing different time zones?
Okay, here we go. We don't work on travel days for sure. So we mostly travel either on the weekends or he'll have to take a day off. Where we'll just make sure we don't have any. He takes a day off of work where I will make sure we don't have any. I don't have any meetings on the days that we are traveling. Other than that, we're in a hotel, we're in Airbnb, we have internet. All you need is internet, people. You just internet, and we are good to go. So, also another thing that I have learned, because I have to be honest, when we first started this nomad life, the time zones and appointments was so hard for me, and I kept missing appointments, and it is a real thing. So do take it seriously. Do be on red alert. So what I have learned to do is to always, when I have a meeting with somebody, I always schedule the meeting in their time zone. So I never put the time zone that I'm in. I always put whatever time zone they're in, because that way, no matter where I move around, it's in their time zone. And when I pull up my calendar, it will move on my calendar based on their time zone. So that is peace of mind. And then another thing that I do is I have a lot of checklists. So you can create a checklist for when you arrive in a new time zone. You could say, like, make sure that this appointment is, and you learn on the road, you learn on the job. You know what I mean? So as you're traveling, you will learn things like, oh, I need to start doing this when I get to a new place. Oh, this is very important. And you just add it to your checklist. So besides those few things, we juggle our work and home and travel responsibilities a lot of the same way that we would if we didn't travel. I'm a productivity and performance coach, so I'm very good at and I teach people how to be organized, have your time management, project management. You need to establish and maintain your routines and habits, even as you change locations and time zones. All of that stuff you need, whether you're traveling or not, but you need it even more, I think, when you're traveling.
Do you practice what
And
you preach?
yes, well, I mean, that's why I started teaching it because it was a passion of mine. And and people kept telling me, you're really good at this. You should teach this. So I finally was like, all right, fine, I will.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And how do you ensure more quality family time with the work life, the family life, the traveling, without getting tied to more conventional work schedule?
Hmm. Okay, well, Monday through Friday, as I have said before, our week, because my husband has a 9 to 5, it it looks a lot like it would kind of no matter where we were. But when you're working from home, it's still a lot of family time. Like, for example, right now my husband works like California hours, but we're living in a place that has maybe like East Coast hours. So what that means is he gets up with the kids, we eat breakfast together. He can do a little homeschooling time with them because his work doesn't start until technically like 11 or noon our time. So he has all morning with the kids. And then he may be working the rest of the day, but they come in from walks and they're like, Daddy, look at this flower, look at this rock, look at this, seashell that I found. They see him throughout the day. And even though he's working, he gets quality time in the morning, and then they can kind of talk to him throughout the day, within reason. And then of course we have all weekend. We have all weekend together. So to me, that's a good amount of quality family time, if you ask me. And of course, he and I get our time in the evenings. But as the time zones change, we just alter that. Sometimes it's less time in the morning, but a little more time in the evening, and so on. The way to ensure anything is by deciding what you want and then scheduling it into your calendar. It works that way no matter your lifestyle. So you learn to trust and use and live by your calendar. It's really life changing. And you should have self care time, family time, blank space / free time in your calendar. And of course, that's something I teach. But if you do that, you're going to ensure it.
That's awesome. Yes.
Yeah.
I learned that a long time ago as well. You put it in your calendar and it's there for
Yes.
you because,
Yes.
if you don't have it there, you might fill it with something else and you might forget
Exactly. You
about what's
do.
important. Yeah. So
You do.
I love that.
Yes.
So then, since we're on calendars and things like that, let's talk about some technology. Are there any tech tools, apps, any must-have particularly helpful in managing work and travel?
There are definitely things that we use now that we wouldn't use if we were in a house. So let's start with cell and Wi-Fi, right? Because
Yes.
you're really the big thing. We have Google Fi as our cell phone plan, but it's not as good as it used to be. Like it used to be, if you're going on trips, it's going to be great. But when you start traveling full time, your time runs out with Google Fi. It lets you have data for like 3 or so months, but then they're like, "Hey, we're noticing you're not in the USA," and they kind of cut you off. So we still are using Google Fi, and I guess would recommend it. It definitely helps in the beginning, or if you're taking trips. But just know that if you're planning on leaving forever, like we kind of did, it it will run out. It will not continue giving you free data. So what we have used is when we go to different countries, we do get a SIM card, but in the interim, like for example, we drive across the border before we get a SIM card, we might want to have cell service. And if Google Fi isn't working, then we have things like Skyroam Solis, Solis. It's like a hotspot disc. It looks like a bright orange hockey puck, but you can buy data to put on that. And so that will help you out when other things have stopped working. We also have an extra cell phone that we will use, and we'll put a SIM card in that, and that will be like the hotspot for that country. So we have our personal phones, our personal numbers, but then we'll also have an extra cell phone that we bring along that can be used as a hotspot.
Okay.
My husband, he uses a travel router. It's it's called a a, a Glynet barrel. So I'll spell that Glinet, and then the next word is Beyl, because I might be
Alright.
saying it wrong. But it's like a little travel router, and he put a VPN, like installed a VPN in it. Okay, I'm telling you guys this because he told me I don't do
It makes
this.
sense, it makes sense.
I am not the tech person, so hopefully I'm saying it correctly. And those of you who know how to do this are really understanding this. So he puts a VPN installed, and then he connects to that router for work. So we have ExpressVPN for our home and personal stuff, and then he has a different one that he uses for work. And he told me he uses Mulvad, Mullvad, but he also said that he doesn't know that that's the best one. It's just the one he chose. So take that with a grain of salt. And for work, it's really all for his work. Once he's plugged into that VPN for his travel router, everything else really just happens through his work softwares and stuff like that. Yeah. And so that kind of hopefully answers that question about how he does his 9 to 5 online. But he also uses an app called Speed Test a lot. He
Yeah.
always is checking the speeds when he first gets to an Airbnb. He'll ask Airbnb owners to check their speed with the Speed Test app. We're a very big Google family. We use Google Calendar, we use Keep Notes for note taking. So we use all of those apps, like I guess probably everyone else does. For banking, we use mobile banking with Charles Schwab. We highly recommend you get a Charles Schwab checking account because they don't have foreign withdrawal fees. Like we go to the ATM and we get reimbursed. That is huge, like huge. For communication, we use WhatsApp. You got to get WhatsApp, guys. If you're leaving the US, you need to get WhatsApp. And of course, we use Zoom for calls. But I also highly recommend, especially if you are a family traveling, getting Marco Polo. So, Marco Polo is a video messaging app. And the reason why it's so much better than just text messages or emails is because your grandparents and your family can see the kids, and the kids can see the grandparents. And it's a way to message so you don't have to be live all the time, but you can see each other. And
Yeah.
I gotta be honest with you, I cannot imagine doing this life without Marco Polo. We even have a channel that has like all of our family in it. And so when we're in like amazing, incredible places, we'll make it's almost like having a YouTube channel with your family. We'll make a video of where we are, and the full family can see our adventures. I don't do it constantly, but I have to be honest, like I highly recommend you get Marco Polo. The apps that we have that are more travel, of course, we have the Airbnb app. I have Happy Cow because I like to eat a lot of vegetarian, vegan foods. So if you are one of those people, I would highly recommend you get Happy Cow. Although I will say it works a lot better in North America and probably Europe than it does in Latin America, but it's still helpful. Of course, Uber, Waze, Rappi is a food delivery app. If you're overlanding, you have to get the iOverlander app. So much information about crossing borders and how to find resources in all the countries. Of course, I have the airline apps, and then DeepL and Google Translate. You will be using those for sure. Unless you know the language, I guess. I don't. So I use that a lot. And then I also just wanted to bring up self-care apps, y'all. Okay. I know everybody knows they need to be taking care of themselves, but I use the Calm app. It helps me with breathing and meditation, and I listen to the stories to help me go to sleep. The Calm app is amazing. I have an affirmations app because I like to control the positivity that goes into my brain. I have a home workout app, which sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't, because sometimes I can join a gym. But having an app on your phone so that you have no excuse not to work out is great. I have Habit Now, which is a habit tracking app. If you are struggling to be consistent with your habits, get Habit Now. Actually, there are a bunch of apps. I just happen to choose Habit Now. And then lastly, I use an Aura Ring, and I have my Aura Ring app, and that helps me keep track of my sleep. So just wanted to bring those up, David, because there are a lot of apps out there for traveling and all that tech, but having tech for taking care of yourself needs to be a priority, in my personal opinion.
I Hey, and I love it. It's good. It sounds like there's so many apps, not just for the travel,
Oh my-
but for your well-being. I mean, yeah,
Yes.
technology is very useful and it doesn't take up that much space.
No, these are
Not
no
as
space. Cell phone's taking up all the space. That's it.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I know a lot of people are wanting to hear you've been all over Latin America now. What are some of your favorite places on this journey so far and why?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to tell you. But before I do that, I have a PSA for everybody.
Ah,
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Just because another person and a bunch of people really liked a place does not mean that you will. And I think this is very important to know because there have been a lot of places I've gone to. And the only reason why I went there is because I heard so many people went there and loved it. And then I got there and I was like, I don't like this. So, as don't stress about it at first. If you're new, just start traveling because as you start traveling, then you will be able to be like, "Oh, this is important to me." And obviously it wasn't to them. "Oh, I need this. I need this." So, I heard so much about San Juan del Sur in Nicaragua. There are lots of YouTube videos about it. There's so many people who went there and absolutely loved it. And I don't know if it used to be different or if it's just me, but no one in my family enjoyed San Juan del Sur. I'm not gonna go into negative things about it, but it just did not vibe with us at all. So I just wanted to give that as an example that just be prepared that there are going to be places that you're going to go and you're going to be like, this was supposed to be amazing. I didn't like it. So, with that said, we, my family, absolutely adored Antigua. Antigua, Guatemala stole our hearts. Um, because it had the view, it had the weather. My husband could play tennis. My kids had a playground. I was able to walk the streets, and there's so much culture in that little city. But then there's also amazing restaurants, and it was very convenient and very cheap. It was amazing. So
yes.
things like that were important to us. And so that's why we loved it. We also loved Mexico City. Some people hate big cities. And we wouldn't want to live in a big city all the time. But we do love cities. We love being able to walk the streets and do the activities and go to the restaurants. That's something we enjoy. So we loved Mexico City, but we also love the Sacred Valley in Peru, which was very remote. But we were in a city called Calca, and they had restaurants that were, I guess you could say, for travelers.
Yeah.
And so they had, there's local ones, but then there are also ones that are for travelers. And then the view is amazing. And then we got to visit local villages and the Quechuan people. And so that was really amazing, our time in the Sacred Valley. But then there are places like my husband really loved Medellin. I was like, meh. My husband really liked Cuenca. I did not like Cuenca at all. My husband loved the Cajas National Park, which is a national park right outside Cuenca, Ecuador. So yeah, my husband just overall, and he loved the Galapagos Islands. I mean, I thought the Galapagos Islands were pretty amazing, but I think he liked Ecuador in general, just a whole next level more than I did. And he also mentioned, because I asked him, what are your favorite places, just to make sure that I accounted for, his opinion as well. He also wanted to make sure that I put the cloud forest and the sloths
Oh,
in Costa Rica, of course.
yes.
And in Costa Rica, I had mixed feelings about it. So,
There's something to be said about seeing your very first live sloth.
okay, The sloth tour was amazing. Yes, I loved the sloth tour, and I'm not even one of those people who obsesses about sloths, but that was amazing. However, that was like 1 2-hour tour out of the whole month in Costa
Uh,
Rica. I think the sloth tour is a must do and amazing, but my overall experience in the and here's the other thing, here's the thing, I keep saying Costa Rica. Listen to me, guys. I didn't see the whole country. I stayed in one place for that whole month. So I could have stayed in a different place and could be telling you something totally. I could have said, I love Costa Rica. But for that one spot that we were, it was called La Fortuna. La Fortuna.
La
I think that's
Fortuna,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. You know, I wasn't impressed. Now, I love the cloud cover thing and I love the sloth, but I didn't love how much it cost. I thought it was completely outrageous and I didn't think the food was that amazing. And I found it very difficult to find the thing. There were a lot of things that I didn't enjoy about it. All of the gecko poop on everything, everywhere, always, like little things
Always.
like that. That kind of irritates me. But that doesn't mean you don't go. I still am glad I went. Okay, I'm gonna take this opportunity, David, I hope you don't mind.
No, go for it.
You don't sell everything and become a nomad because you want a life of comfort and convenience and everything to always go your way. That's not why you do this, right? If you want that, you stay in the house. But if you want adventure, which means sometimes things are unbelievably amazing, epic. And sometimes you're like, ew, there's gecko poop on my kitchen table. And I don't really like that. But oh my God, I'm in Costa Rica and I'm getting geckos pooping on my kitchen table. That is when you sell everything. When you want that kind of stress, that is when you're like, yes, let's go. I was meant for this. And I'm down
Yes.
for it. I'm down for it.
Yes, that's you're, like, pointing out the different type of stress level. It's, do I wanna
Yes.
sit in bumper to bumper traffic for an hour every day both
Yes.
ways type of
Or
stress, or do I want to have to worry about listening to geckos talk to each other and poop on my couch every morning?
exactly. No, listen, that is how it is. There is no escaping stress and challenges, right? Life is going to have its good times and its bad times. But what is so amazing is you can choose what kind of stress you want in your life. What brand of stress is the kind that you want? For me, it is travel and adventure and excitement and not the monotony of suburban American life. That's just not for me. So I think also for anyone listening to this podcast, they're probably like, "Yes, give me the gecko poop."
Do you ever go, out of your way to, like, a five-star resort every once in a while, or do you just still keep it on the low key, or do you find the middle ground with your Airbnbs? What's your go-to?
So we do have a budget, right? Our normal budget in which we don't want to spend more than this on an Airbnb, but um there are times when we're on the road, some of our hotels will be like, "Okay, we found this one for 30 bucks a night." And then other ones we will spend like 250 a night, which for us is like a really nice place. Now, I don't know, I mean, we haven't been doing luxury traveling because for us it's just not worth it. We'd rather stay in the middle and be comfortable consistently rather than going really low or really high. But but we definitely splurge occasionally. But it's not like a lot often, but we definitely do. Especially, when I do it is like when I look at a place and I'm seeing the hotel options and the cheaper ones just look like,
Yeah.
ooh, I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna let us be real comfortable as opposed to real uncomfortable in this one location. So we did
Have
that on Lake Titicaca.
Yeah.
What was the name of the town? Starts with a P. Is it
Puno,
Puno?
Puno.
Puno. In Puno, we were going to just be there for one night, and we were gonna explore the floating islands on Lake Titicaca, and I looked at the hotel options, and there was this one hotel that was, like, out on the lake, and it was gorgeous,
Yes.
and it had just a really nice room, and it had a restaurant, and it was kinda like, "This would be great," and it was more than we normally spend. I wouldn't say that it was outrageously luxurious a price, but it was more than we normally spend. But I thought, you know what? We're going there for one night. These floating islands have been on my bucket list my whole life. Like, I'm just going to really enjoy this 24-hour period. And then on either end of that, we had a lot more economical accommodations on our way to Arequipa in Peru. So that's, yeah, we do that.
That's awesome. Yes.
Yeah.
So the occasional splurge. So how does your overall budget for this long-term trip look? So we talked about accommodations. What about food and clothing and all that other stuff?
Okay, well, I do want to let people know that doing expenses as a nomad is different than when you're on vacation. When you're on vacation, you got to pay for all of your life where you are, plus another life where you're going to be. But when we had a house, we had a mortgage, water, electric, gas, pest control, yard maintenance, home insurance, two cars and their insurance, American health insurance. The list goes on. And so we were paying all that already. So we were used to shelling out a lot of money. And now we take all of that money that we were spending on all of that stuff. And now it's just like Airbnb, which takes care of all housing, everything, one car insurance. Sometimes we don't even need it when the country doesn't require it, and a very low cost traveler's insurance. Okay. And we even became residents of South Dakota. We're really Georgia people, but we drove to South Dakota, became residents there. First of all, because it's super easy. And second of all, because there's just a lot of benefits to being a resident of South Dakota. You can cancel your car insurance. You don't have to pay state taxes, lots of things. But my point is that we aren't living extra, you know what I'm saying? And we aren't necessarily saving money either. We're just living in the bounds of what we can afford based on our income. And so if you make more money than we do, you can do even more. If you make a little less money than we do, you're going to do things differently. But I don't know if that answers your questions, but my point is when it comes to travel expenses, we just make decisions. You don't have to decide everything before you go. You make one decision and then you stay there and then you make the next one and you do a budget the same way that you do when you're living at home, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
I get it. I get it. So then,
Yeah.
all right. As far as ownership of things concerns, because if we're
Okay.
traveling, we're gonna want things. What are some of the most unique must-haves that you travel with, whether they're in your suitcase for flying or for the driving? Like, what are some of those things that you can't live without?
Okay. David, again, I'm going to question your question. I know I keep doing this.
Okay.
I do want to just make sure people realize that the idea of must have is completely like arbitrary. Okay. You think right now in your house that you must have things, but what you're going to realize as you're on the road, and you realize it more and more the longer you do it, that there are very, very few things, if anything, that you really must have. I mean, outside of course, a medication or something. Like anything you need, you're going to be able to find in one way or another wherever you are, because wherever you are, there are people. Okay. People are surviving wherever you travel. And so they have whatever you need, emphasis on the need, wherever you are. So you really don't have to worry about making sure your needs are met. It's more like,
Uh,
what do you
yeah.
want to have?
What
What
are those
makes you happy?
Yeah, what are those comfort items
Yes,
that
yes,
I okay, I here's where this question comes from. It's
yes. Go ahead.
from my experience. All right, we travel from Airbnb to Airbnb, and
Yes.
it started to irritate me that there wasn't always a frying pan. So I bought a
Mm.
frying pan. Now I travel with a frying pan. Or coffee mugs. Every once in a while, I find a place that doesn't have one. So I have a cup that also serves. It's one of those tumbler type things, so it works as both water
Yes.
or coffee. Those types of things where you
Okay.
really want.
So I do know what you mean. And I have a long list. Let me tell you something, David. Yes, I escaped the monotony and the comfort of the US, but I am still a US like person. Okay. I like to be comfortable. Okay. So yes, I know exactly what you mean. And there are lots of things. For me, I use the packing cubes, everybody does, but really I have a whole pot set, a nesting pot set. In fact, hang on. Like this right here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Magma.
So this is a whole set of pots that nest in itself. And just like you, David, I have found that Airbnb cookware is the most disgusting, pathetic, ridiculous stuff I've ever seen in my life. And I personally do not feel comfortable cooking with most of the stuff that you get in Airbnbs. So I found out very quickly that I needed to have a mini kitchen on the road. So I have the nesting pots. I also have small cooking utensils. So I found like small spatulas and a small whisk. And so I have a lot of utensils that I bring, but they're all kind of like really small travel size. I travel with spices. Okay, this, I don't know if I can do this once I'm in airplane mode, but I travel with my Vitamix, with an Instapot. And something else I travel with is going to probably blow your mind, an American sized trash can. Because what you will find in Airbnbs is they give you a trash can that's the same size as your current bathroom trash can. I'm serious. It's like a bathroom trash can in the kitchen. And
Oh
that
yeah.
might be great if you're a single person and you're very good at zero waste. But I have 4 people. Okay. We can't even go through one meal without filling up that
Yeah.
tiny trash can.
Yes.
So, because I'm doing van travel, I have a normal American trash can that we, of course, put things in to help us be able to put it in the van. But I have used, it seems like a silly thing, but I have used that trash can more than a lot of other stuff that I brought. I'm telling you what. So, the kitchen stuff for me is big. So for little people though, what we have brought is I think I mentioned like a stool, like one of those
Mhm.
little step stools that's collapsible. And something else that I remember, I got this right before we left, and I asked myself, I'm like, is this extra? Like, am I going to regret this? But we have used it in every place we've stayed. And that is like kitchen table cushions, like kitchen table chair cushions, like those little, like just like foamy cushions that you put in your kitchen chairs.
Yeah.
Because I have little girls, little kids, and when we get to a place, they sit on their knees or they're too short for the table. And these chair cushions, they're amazing. Not only do they help them be comfortable at the table, but we will often just put them on the floor on either side of the coffee table. And that is their art desk. That's where they do their
Yeah.
writing and their homework, and they can sit on these cushions on their knees. Now, could I use a blanket or a pillow? Possibly. But having these cushions, it's great. It's great. And we've used them a lot. I do want to add though, my husband, he really likes that we travel with fragrance-free laundry detergent. Now, I don't know how the rest of the world is, but in Latin America, finding fragrance-free laundry detergent is literally impossible. And he really likes it. He has very sensitive skin. So think about your laundry detergent. And of course, an external battery is something that we use a lot. Like it's like a little brick, and which is battery life. So we plug that in when we're doing long days out. And
Okay.
now, this only will help you if you're doing van life. I don't think this will help you if you're going traveling by airplane. But my husband has found that he does not work as well when his desk situation is changing constantly, having to work like at a kitchen table or randomly. Just Airbnbs have different kind of setups, but he has found that to be stressful. So he travels with a folding desk and chair and a back cushion.
Really?
So yes, he does. So his desk is actually like it's a kind of desk. It's not a desk. It's a table that people use for camping. It's like a camping table, and it folds up to this long rectangle because the frame just folds up like this, and the top of the desk like rolls into like a long narrow thing. So he has a portable desk and just a normal folding chair, which wouldn't be comfortable, but he spent a lot of money on a very nice cushion for his back. He used to have a butt cushion, but
Yeah,
he
he did.
found that but he found that the back cushion is what he needed, not the butt cushion. But you do what you need. Maybe if you're traveling by airplane, just having the back cushion in your suitcase might help you, even if you can't, bring your desk and your chair.
Yes. So, yeah, so he's got that whole desk set up. That is
Yeah,
amazing.
I know. And I don't know what we're gonna do when we're no longer traveling by van. He's gonna have to adjust somehow because because that is one of the luxuries of doing the van travel. Yes, I know.
But yes, I do agree. You need to have some kind of cushioning or just the little luxuries that you take from here and there.
Is listen, just because we're okay kind of roughing it with this travel doesn't mean we are, still spoiled rotten. We still spoil ourselves, of course.
All right. So then ups and downs. Every traveler, vacationer, traveler, nomad has ups and downs. Now that you're like full-time nomadic, do you have
Mhm.
any personal anecdotes about a challenge that you faced and how you overcame it?
Okay. Well, for us, because of how we travel, really and truly, the biggest challenge is border crossings or extending visas. That has been the most stressful thing for us. Although I will say that sometimes when you get to a place and going to the grocery store, I just thought of this. If you go into the grocery store and like the food is not what you were hoping for, they don't have the kinds of foods you're used to cooking, that can create a panic for the mom, or the cook, I should say the cook, whoever cooks in the family, because I was somebody who I would meal plan. I'm like, we're eating this, this, and this, and these are the groceries that we need. And then I went to the grocery store and I got those groceries and I was good. But when you're traveling to different countries, you don't know what is going to be in that grocery store. And something else, you could go to the grocery store, find something, and then when you go out the next week, it ain't there. So you learn how to cook with very unpredictable things. But like you said, that was a stress for me for sure when we first started. And you just learn how to breathe. You take deep breaths. You remind yourself that you chose this life. And then you also learn you're amazing. And you can do a lot of, I'm trying not to cuss on this podcast. You can do a lot of stuff. When you put your mind to it, you are resilient, you can pivot, you can do it. So you just learn how great you are and how you can overcome these challenges just by applying yourself and taking deep breaths and rethinking your plan. With the border crossings, though, to get back to the border crossings and extending visas, we had a massive conundrum in Ecuador. I don't necessarily know that I can go into it deep here, but it basically was like we had to extend our visa, but my husband's visa didn't line up with the temporary import with the car and the way their laws were. You had to do one thing before the other. It was so stressful. And my husband had to drive to the border multiple times, which was like 4.5 hours away, 4.5 to 5 hours away. And we had to do this weird thing where he had to spend whole weekends away from us, 5 hours away at the border, trying to figure out this paperwork. It was a nightmare for sure.
That is Ecuador,
Um,
yes. Ugh.
yes, yes. So I would say that was one of our biggest ones so far. Also, another border crossing. When we crossed into Mexico, which was our first country, they didn't stamp our passports.
Oh,
It did not stamp us into the country. They gave us these pieces of paper that had the stamp, and we thought, okay, like we didn't want to piss the guy off. We didn't ask questions. We were new newbies. And we were just like, oh, I guess this piece of paper is enough. That's what we thought. And then when we tried to cross into Belize, they were like, you can't come into Belize until you're checked out of Mexico. And Mexico was like, we're not checking you out. You were never checked in. So that was like a huge, many multi-hour stressful situation. Now we know you don't go into a country until they've stamped your passport for sure. So that was very stressful, very stressful. Let me think. Another thing is that this is the one that happened the most recent. And when you're traveling in Chile, there are not a lot of gas stations, or there are long gaps without gas stations. And we were used to our car going a certain distance on a certain amount of gas. But when you're in Chile, I think with the weight and the heat. And we were driving like 70 miles an hour as opposed to the mountain roads we had been on where you're going like 45 to 50. So the gas was like going down, and we were watching our thing saying, 60 more miles, 50 more miles, 40 more miles, 30 more miles. And we're looking at like the map, like how much, basically we ran out of gas, y'all. We
Yep.
ran out of gas, like not that far from where a gas station was, but far enough to where we were screwed. That was very stressful. It was a little bit of a panic thing. And what's worse is it was the day we crossed the border. So we didn't have money. We didn't have
Yeah.
cash. Anyways, it was just all the challenges, but we figured it out. We parked the car in shade so that the kids and I just sat in the car in shade, and Mark set off on foot, and he starts asking people, where can I get money? Where is an ATM? We had tried to, we basically learned that our card didn't work in all the ATMs in Chile, and some they did, some they didn't. Anyways, eventually he got cash. And then it turned out that there's some dude, this old man, who was selling, you just give him cash and he has a gas reserve that this must happen to other people, because he sells gas just he had this like shed with gas. And so we just gave him cash. We paid double, what it would have cost at the gas station, but he filled our tank with gas enough to get us to a gas station. People are nice. People are amazing.
Wow.
Everybody is living their life in every city. So whatever you need, you will find help. You will find resources. You just have to trust and do your best. And of course, you do your research and you don't do anything foolish, but just know that we live in a world full of other families, and everybody has good intentions. So,
Yes.
I just feel like it worked out. It ended up working out. And here's the other thing that I wanted to point out about this, because it would have been very easy for me to be like, Mark, you're in charge of the gas. Why didn't you notice the gas? Right? But of course I didn't do that, because we're a team and we're both in this together. And there are times when I screw up and times when he screws up and times when we screw up together, So I think that it's very important to be a person and to go with a person who is kind and compassionate, and that you communicate well with. People who don't fight dirty or call names or take things very personally or point fingers, but make sure that we all take responsibility. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
that is very, very important. If you are in a relationship at home, or you have a home right now, and you guys don't fight well, and y'all aren't compassionate, you aren't communicating, you need to get that together before you think about traveling with them. That I definitely believe that.
Yes, relationships definitely can take a toll if you don't have that communication going on and that compassion when
Yes.
because you're
Yeah.
together constantly. And if that scares you, listeners, yeah, I'll leave it at
Yeah.
that.
Yes. I mean, I do think that you really do need to tap into being compassionate and kind to each other, and patient, and it'll be fine.
All right. So then, what are your valuable takeaways, the life lessons you've learned that you want to impart to some other family travelers?
You know what? They probably were all going to sound very cliche, but they're true. Maybe they're cliche because they're true. I don't know. Here's the thing. You will learn that if you can dream it, you can make it happen. And you can do things that will blow your mind. I mean, when I think about the fact that I drove here, I'm in Chile, drove here from the US, it blows my mind. But I did it. I had the dream and I made it happen. And you can too. I mean, really and truly. We've learned that we're a great team, and you will see that you guys will come together and you'll be a great team. I feel like this was a great idea. I don't think you'll regret it. I think it sounds crazy, but then you're going to do it and you're going to be like, this was a great idea. This is amazing, And you only live once, and you don't know which day is going to be your last. So don't put this kind of thing off. I think those are things that we hear a lot, and they are kind of cliche, but are very true. Something that I have learned is that, and we were very we were shocked about like how fear exists everywhere. When we were in the US, everybody was afraid of us going to Mexico. And then when we were in Mexico, people told us, don't go to Belize. Ooh, Belize, there's a lot of danger there. And when we were in Belize, I am not kidding you. People were like, you're going to Guatemala next? Because people ask you, where are you going next? You say, oh, Guatemala. But you're going to Guatemala? Oh my gosh, like, be careful. It's really dangerous there. And when we were in Guatemala, they couldn't believe I was going to El Salvador. I mean, it goes on. And I am not kidding you. Everybody is scared of everybody else around them. But what we found is like driving the Pan American Highway is so doable. And we have felt safe everywhere. We've had challenges, like I just talked about with border crossings and running against, but like no challenges with safety or people being dangerous, or we personally have not had any of those experiences. And we just felt like this was easier than we thought it was going to be. It was more fun than we thought it was going to be. It's been great. Totally don't regret it. And listen, this whole Pan American Highway thing and doing Latin America, that's just stage one. That's just chapter one in our nomad life.
Really?
After this, yes, I'm not going back. No way. This is so amazing. I love it.
Then what are you going to continue with? What's the dream destination next?
Well, I mean, we have so much. The world is huge. Okay, we have more of Mexico. We have the Caribbean islands. We have Europe and some North Africa. The only reason why I don't mention Asia or other African countries, the only thing right now is the time zone and work. That is the hugest limiting factor. But while we're exploring Europe and others, I am working my business, okay? And when I can make enough money to where Mark doesn't have to do his 9 to 5, Asia's on the list. We're going. It's happening. It's just a matter of time, really.
Nice. All right. I love that. Keep your possibilities open.
Yes.
All right, let's do a little lightning round.
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
How about protein shake?
All right, protein shake. Interesting. Cat
I
or
don't do it.
dog?
Oh, cat.
Cat, okay.
Yes.
Pool or beach?
Ooh, beach. Definitely.
Okay. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to teleport anywhere at any time?
Languages. Y'all, learn the languages. It's not, look, don't make it, you won't stop you. I'm sorry, you were doing lightning round.
No.
Don't not go. If you don't know a language, don't let that just stop you from going, but know that knowing the language will just elevate your experience and your connection to the place just like tenfold. Anyways,
Nice.
or 100-fold. Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry, David.
All right. Now imagine this. You
Okay.
get off your plane at your next destination and you arrive into the zombie apocalypse. You're able to get into your bags. What's the first thing you grab and why?
The first thing I grab, I mean, doesn't everybody go for their laptop?
For the zombie apocalypse?
Okay, is this after children? Like, we're talking like after children, right? Of course.
Of
I was assuming
course.
family
They're right next to you.
included.
They made it with you
Yes.
to the luggage.
You know what? Does anything matter at that point? I'm like trying to think. What would you grab? Food? Shelter? I don't know. Zombie apocalypse. Oh my goodness,
Told
David.
you
I
this
want
would
to
be
know
fun.
what you would grab because I think you've thought about this. I
Oh,
haven't thought about.
what I would probably grab, well, since it would probably be our checked baggage if we made it to the luggage claim, I'd have to get one of Brody's knives that she travels with.
Oh yeah, self-defense. You're so smart, David. That's a good idea. I think that I don't travel with anything. Would be the most. I guess I guess I do have a kitchen knife with me.
I mean, that or my multi-tool. So,
That's
all right,
oh,
travel
that's fun.
trivia.
Yes, that's fun. Thank you.
What is the capital city of Mexico?
Well, Mexico City.
Ah, what is the name of Guatemala's most famous ancient civilization?
It's not the Incas. It is the Aztec. That's the Mexico. Mexico is the Aztecs. Peru is the Incas. Do I get bonus points that I knew that? The Guatemala. I should know this. I don't know.
Mayan.
You know what? Mayan. Of course, the Mayans.
It was the only one that
I'm
was
more.
on your tongue that couldn't come off.
I know, and it's also in Mexico too.
Yeah,
I think that. Yeah. Go ahead. What's next? Told you I was gonna suck at this.
it's all right. It's all right. You're doing great. What's the name of Costa Rica's most active volcano?
My husband knows the names of the volcanoes. I don't memorize them. I do not know.
It's
I
a
probably
renal,
saw it.
a renal volcano. I didn't know it
Yes.
either. So,
No. I told you. When it comes to the land, I just let him do all that work.
what is Ecuador's currency?
Oh, the US dollar. Okay, I can do that.
What is the name of the world famous ancient city in Peru that was built by the Incas?
Well, is it Machu Picchu or is it another one?
Machu Picchu.
Okay. Okay.
See?
Yeah. Like I knew that was one of them. That
Three out
was
of
amazing.
five.
Anyway,
Three
going
out
to
of
see Machu
five.
Picchu. Okay, good.
Tell me
Not
about
that bad.
Machu Picchu. What about it?
It was amazing. It's just you take half the day to get there and the other half of the day to get back. But there's this slot of time right in between, like 2 or 3 hours, where you're actually at Machu Picchu, and it's very cool. It's just part of it is just you've heard about your whole life, and so you're excited just to be there for that. But then just the view and the mountains, and just knowing that so many years ago, these were their walls in their city. And they used to throw their daughters into giant volcanoes. Like, it's crazy. Like, you're there. It's just
Well,
crazy
when you
and
put it like
amazing.
that.
I know.
Oh,
Definitely make that. I guess
yes.
that's on everybody.
Having daughters like you do, that would be an interesting way to think about it because, yeah, they didn't do that to the son.
I know. But, you have to remember they probably didn't get as connected with their kids. I mean, they were working probably all the time, or they were slaves, or, it was just like, it was a survival, probably a lot of more of a survival lifestyle than we can even comprehend, I would imagine.
I would imagine. All right. Well, before we go, do you have any final pieces of advice for families considering a similar adventure?
I mean, I feel like I've dropped them. I've dropped them. You won't regret it. You won't be escaping anything except for the comfort and monotony of the USA. There are a lot of ways to do this lifestyle. So it's not a matter of can you, it's just how you're going to make it work. You make your list of challenges and you start checking them off. I had a long list when I started wanting to do this, and it took me 5 years to get my affairs in order. I had getting out of deep credit card debt, getting healthy, working on myself in my marriage, supporting my husband while he changed careers so that he could work remotely. There's a lot to be done sometimes. So get support, get into Facebook groups. You can call me, of course. Yeah, but you'll find a way.
Yes. So, listeners, if you're considering a journey like this, get into some of the
Mhm.
world schooling groups. You'll see
Yes.
Bethany. You'll see others just like her that are willing to
Yes.
give their advice. But again, thank you for your time today, Bethany. It was been awesome. You've got
Yes,
some
this is
great
a lot of
stories.
fun. Thank
Yes.
you so much for having me. David, before we go, I want to encourage your listeners to rate and review this podcast, because it is so important that they do that. Part of how I am here is by listening to podcasts like this. I would listen to these podcasts and dream of the day that I could actually be on one talking about my adventure. And I think that they're so important. And so I even want to say that if you rate and review this podcast and you send me a screenshot, then I will give you a free 1 hour strategy session where we can get you ready for full-time travel faster and better. And if you're already on the road and you're listening to this, then you send me the screenshot of your review and we can pinpoint how you can create more time and energy for yourself while you're on the road. I definitely, and you know what? I'm sure that David will, David, you're probably going to put all my information below in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll put a
But
link
just
onto it. Yeah.
yes, just when you're listening to this, Be Your Best with Bethany. If you can remember that, I'm beyourbestwithbethany.com. My Instagram is at Be Your Best with Bethany. You can find me on Facebook, Be Your Best with Bethany. Super easy. My email is hello@beyourbestwithbethany. So any way that you can contact me, send me a screenshot of your review and let's get to work.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. And everybody, be your best with Bethany. Go to the site, check her out, like,
Mhm.
subscribe, send her a screenshot. And yes, I hope to see everybody out there, all of our listeners on the road someday.
Yes. Yes. I love hearing those stories.
All right. Well, thank you, Bethany. It was great talking to you today. And I know you and I will be talking again soon. And listeners,
Yes.
I know you'll be hearing from me again soon too. Take care.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.